Hi, welcome to Tea Time with Amy and Bev. Hello.
Good morning.
Good day.
How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I'm back on my I think I mentioned it yesterday or last week. I'm back on my routine of getting up in the morning to go to the gym. So I get up at like 4:15, 4:20, at the gym by 5. So get it done. That way I got the rest of my day to get other stuff done. So feeling pretty good
That's
about
awesome.
that.
Nice.
Usually though, well, last week, the first 2 days was pretty easy. By Wednesday, it was a little rougher, but as I got through the week, it got a little tougher, but the yesterday and today I got up. So actually yesterday and today I actually woke up before the alarm went off, but I just laid there waiting. So
Do you go to bed really early?
no, I still go
To
to bed about the same time as I always
Yeah,
do.
gotcha.
That's usually somewhere around 10.
Gotcha.
So
We try to be in bed really kind of like around 9, a little bit after 9. If it's by 9:30, that's awesome. So
nice.
I was just curious because you're getting up so early and I don't wake up that early. If I do, I'll go into meditation or whatever I do to go right back into my space.
Yeah. Well, I work out. I'm there for from the time I leave to the time I get back, it's like an hour and a half. And get ready for my day, have breakfast, and then I do my meditation. And my meditation right now, because I'm still doing that Joe Dispenza meditation, is like almost an hour. And I think I'm checking out since I've been getting up at like 4:15. I think I've been checking out during that meditation for a few minutes, but then
Yeah.
the music will change or he'll say something and it brings me right back. So
Yeah.
I'd like to believe I'm just really going into deep meditation.
Oh, no, I drift out. I do the same. I do mine at nighttime lately, but I've been doing it every single night. And I'll drift off, and then I come back, and I drift off. It's like first thing I'm at the root chakra. Next thing you know, I could be at the crown. I could be at the heart. So last night I was at root, and I blinked out for a bit, and then showed up at the solar plexus. Like, so for me, I feel like it's divine timing, right?
Yeah.
It's only going to show up. It's going to show up exactly what you need to be. Maybe that needs a little bit extra space, a little energy, more
Right.
attention.
Well, I will have to say that in the meditation that I'm doing, he says, you're going to go to being nobody, no thing, nowhere. And apparently I'm doing that really well right now.
There you go. There you go.
I'm good with that. I'm good
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome.
because I'm back for the visualization part. So it's all right.
Nice, nice. It's important. I was listening to Bashar recently, and he was you're talking about focus on what you want, and he talks about like the secret and stuff like that, and the thing that people miss out on. So he says to really get into that meditative space, to really be in the high space of the energy, feeling good, creating it, but not to do it for any more than 15 minutes. He says any more than 15 minutes when you're creating like that, you can create more problems. 15 minutes. And then the next thing you do is let it go. You don't think
Yeah.
about it. You don't write it on a to-do list. You don't do anything with it. And he says, you will notice that things change and transpire for you. It's kind of been in my mind to do it. It's funny how I have the stuff in my mind to accomplish these things that would make me super happy, but how much time do I dedicate to it?
Right.
Honestly, I'm even not even barely playing any game lately. I do a little bit of it compared to what I was doing before. I don't have a desire for it, zero desire. So, but it's giving me more time to do other things. It's giving me more time for my thoughts to be other places. So it's kind of awesome. It's kind of awesome when you free yourself up and pay attention. Because I
Yeah.
was doing the same stuff before too. I was working things. It's so funny. I was working myself into my calendar. Listen to how ridiculous that sounds, right? And then relationships, like we were having a conversation yesterday. I'm gone all day long. So you know what I mean? If I'm gone all day long, then and I just want to come home and relax, then I'm not having any interaction that's good for relationships. I'm not. So it's bringing that stuff to light too and having an awareness of it. It's because we want to be in balance and in harmony, and balance and harmony in all aspects of our life.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Going back to the manifesting or law of attraction or the secret is using your visualization to see it happening as if it's already happening, whatever it is you desire, and feeling the emotion of it, and then at your best maintaining that emotional state throughout your day, and periodically think about your desires, but as if it's already happening. So it's the emotional state that is super vital to that creative process. That's why it's important, like in relationships, bringing that lightheartedness into the relationship, if that's what you desire in a relationship. If you're tired of heavy and arguing and discomfort, discord, well, what are you bringing to the relationship? And it's the same as in business. My focus for a while now, and I'm still embracing it, is, and reminding myself to embrace it, is the creativity of the classes, not the burdensome of having to create them and then do the class, because that energy, that emotional state, I'm putting into the creative process. And I have to say, since I've been doing the Joe Dispenza meditation every day, that I am more in a flow state when I'm doing the creation of the classes. Like, it's just a flow. Like there's not like you get to a point, you're like, oh dang, I gotta fix that. Oh, I gotta do this on the website. And it's this jerking sense. I don't have, it's just like a flow. Oh, okay, I gotta do this and this. And it's just been so simple. And what happens with that as well is when things seem so simple or so easy, that gets our attention because we're usually focused on drama. We're usually focused on the hard stuff. We're focused on how difficult things are supposed to be. And then we feel more rewarded because we made it through the difficult stuff. When, you know what, I'm at this point in my life, I am so ready for ease and flow. I'm just I'm embracing that so much. And it's the same with artificial intelligence now is a big deal. And I just saw something they had the news on it at the gym, and it caught my attention because they were talking about how quickly artificial intelligence is exploding right now, and having to have some governing laws about the use of it. And I've been using it to create the content for class descriptions and for the descriptions of of this podcast. And what I used to do is sit there and I would have to create the content, which would take me an hour or two because I have to come up with the wording and, the flow of it and all this. And sometimes that's a struggle, and I don't want to bring that struggle energy into that business. And so I can just type in a sentence into the AI program, and I have 2,300 words in like 2 minutes of a description of something. And so it's been very beneficial, and taking that that struggle off of me, and it's also, I mean, time is important when we're in a business and a solopreneur, and having all these things we're juggling in a business and personal life. And so it's actually, for me, it's been a blessing to be able to use it. So finding a way, my whole point is finding a way to bring a higher vibrational emotion into the areas of your life, but also keeping in mind that all areas of your life affect all areas of your life. So business affects personal, personal affects business. And it's important to recognize that your job, if you go to a job of employment and you don't like the people you're working with, or you don't like the job you're doing, that is affecting your personal life. It's affecting your health. Like it's all correlated. And we talk about energy a lot. So recognizing it, everything's energy and everything is commingling.
Yeah, because we think there's fine lines between us and everything else. Like I can see you and I can see your shelf system behind you. You know what I mean? But the truth of the matter is we're all connected. I mean, there is no separation.
Yeah.
But we get to have this human experience to see that there's separation so that we can come here and have this experience of not feeling the love and then finding ourselves back to the love, and however you want to look at it. But we have all those options. We have a lot of choices out there.
Yeah.
And then as you're going, you learn that you just want to feel better. And as you're going, you learn so much about yourself. Just the whole journey of it all. And you just ask yourself different questions. And you find yourself in a place of having more knowing, the knowing of something that, and I try every time it comes up, like when you know something, all I can say is I know. I just know. I don't know. I just know. That's all I can tell you. I have nothing to, in my experience, for how I feel, that's my knowing. And to be in that space all the time. I actually heard Suzanne Giesemann recently make a comment about that was her super tool. You know, that was the super tool, the knowing, and she's the knowingness. And that's where she's at right now. That she was saying, she says, I'm not saying that one's better than the other, but she says, it kind of is, because that knowing is not having faith. It's a knowing. It's not having hope. It's knowing. There's a knowing that everything's fine. And then listening to the guidance for all of us, having the human experience. I'm listening to human experience. So I'm going to go with my human body. I'm listening to Dr. Berg again this morning on just random stuff. And he was talking about menopause. Well, I'll be 53 this year, and I haven't really had a menopause. But then he starts talking about all these symptoms that women have. And he says, is that normal? And he says, no, it's not normal for us to have the hot flashes and all these things. And he starts going on about so much information. And you have to, when you're listening to anybody else's information, you have to see how it resonates with you. And it becomes a knowing. There becomes a knowing in that, because you just know that it feels right. I know recently I have been taking way too much vitamin D. I started having reactions because I've had too much vitamin D. So I have a knowing. I didn't get to the extreme. You start looking up the information and it's not really to that point, but they weren't talking about the surges or the hot flashes. I haven't been taking it. I'm not having the hot flashes and the surges. So, but that's not one of the symptoms, you know? So you can't look at that stuff. You just have to have a knowing and trust. I mean, you can trust it or don't, but it's a knowing. There's no explanation to it, period. But he goes on to talk about LDL cholesterol, and he talks about that there's more than one, there's two LDLs. And one of them is actually a good, and we've been told so much that this is bad for you, and cholesterol. And he says cholesterol supports the adrenals. So when your lower organs, your sex organs, the ovaries and your gonads or the testes, however you want to talk about, when they'll start fading, our adrenals are supposed to pick up. And if our adrenals are not picking up and replacing all that, because there should be no separation. That should go from one doesn't work automatically, the other one picks up the job just automatically. But that just goes to show you the issues in the tissue, right? There's something going on in that space. Adrenals are in the sacral or the solar plexus area. So you look at all of this stuff and you just start kind of exploring it and see, what does it mean? Well, it made sense to me when he was talking like that, because most of us are told avoid cholesterol. Cholesterol is bad for you, but there is good cholesterol for you. And it's learning and knowing what that is. So it's just interesting, because on this journey, I'm finding out so much information. And on a spiritual level, does that make a lot of sense to me to be that way? Maybe not really, but at the same point it does, because if it's bringing me into a space of harmony in this body while I'm having this experience, that's awesome. You know, if a woman doesn't have to go through these things, and I'll be the guinea pig, I'll do this stuff. And if it starts changing where I'm not having any of the symptoms, I'll share it. Does that mean that it's going to work for everybody? No, because we have belief systems. We have ideals we've listened to. It's whatever you've been digesting all day long. What foods are you eating? What are you watching on TV? What are you listening to? What are the words that are coming out of your mouth? What are you reading? Like there's so many things we've talked about, how we feed ourselves. And we feed ourselves in so many ways, but it's knowing to just pay attention to that stuff. It's the knowing. And that makes our journey so much easier. Then it doesn't feel like it's such a struggle. It doesn't feel like it's a task to do these things. Oh God, I don't want to be here anymore. I mean, it doesn't feel like all that heaviness, because it doesn't feel heavy. It feels lighter. It feels possible. You just know.
Well, it's interesting because yesterday, or actually this morning, I watched the replay, but I just started watching a lady about hormone balance. So Bev and I haven't talked in a week, and here we are. We're both listening to something about hormones, and I have I've not had a menstrual cycle since 2015. Yeah,
Wow.
2015.
Okay.
So I've been going through this for a while, but I'm not taking it. I haven't taken any uh other than vitamins. I haven't taken any like supplements or anything to
Yeah.
balance my hormones. Um well, what I want to say though is because you mentioned chakras, and the idea, if we take the medical side and the our mind, body, spirit, or spiritual side, and interweave them, because like you said, the sex organs, and is our root chakra and our sacral chakra, which um we got to do some healing, emotional healing, mental healing in that space to help bring those more into alignment, which then affects our hormones and our sex drive, and right, and the belly fat, and so it's all, it all counts, is what I'm trying to say. It all counts. That our we've talked about this so many times: mental, emotional, physical, spiritual. Those four categories need attention for your body to come into harmony. And I encourage people, I go every year to get a yearly checkup, so I know kind of where my body's at. But that's where my body is at that time. Doesn't mean that's where it's at the whole year, but at least I have a once a year checkup that says, here's what we know, from your blood work. And I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? Right. And I just, for the first time in years, I had to make an adjustment, a serious adjustment, in December, for my body to come into more of an alignment, to be in a space that it feels good. And I like got the news one day, that next day, man, I was on it. I was making those adjustments. But I also know, just because of what I believe to be true, is I had some emotional work to do, some mental work to do. And I went for a 3-month checkup after that. So in March, I went and got checked again. And then they're like, great, everything's good. Thumbs up, do what, keep doing. The doctors don't want to know what you're doing. They don't. If you if you make a change in your body and your blood work, and they don't have an explanation, it doesn't matter. They don't want to know. They don't want to hear about it. They just want you to keep doing what you're doing that helps you feel better. And that's what my doctor said. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I'm like, okay, you got that, sister. No, you want to hear about it? They don't have time. They don't have time. So anyway, so intercommingle your meridians, your chakras, your mental, emotional, physical, spiritual health with the medical practice, right? With those medical diagnoses. And it's just, the diagnosis is just the idea of what the medical doctor knows with what their training is. And our body, on all levels, our body is so incredibly powerful of healing. But the emotional, and this is the piece that most people don't want to do because it sucks. And I say that with conviction, because it does. I'm not going to say it's easy, and I'm not going to say it's joyful to do emotional work, but it's well worth it for your physical well-being. And I also believe, I think I mentioned this before, and I'm not sure if I did, that, as I was growing up and going through, life, and listening to older women who experienced menopause, man, there were some angry women, and there still are. There's women go through menopause and they are angry, like you don't want to be around them, right? It's just that bad. Well, starting in my early 30s, I started doing my emotional work. And by the time I hit the menopause state, whether it was pre-menopause, menopause, post-menopause, like I never went through an angry state. And I feel like, and there's no way to really measure this. It's just how I know, right? That knowing that because I did so much emotional work, because if you remember, I came from an angry state. Like most of my childhood and my 20s, I was in that angry state. And there's no doubt in my mind that if I hadn't done my healing process, that in my emotional mental healing, that when I hit that menopause state or pre-menopause, I would have been like an absolute bitch. There's no doubt in my mind. It would have been bad. It just would have been bad, like worse than becoming a teenager. It would have just been way worse. But I feel like because I did do so much work on myself that I didn't experience any of that. Was I tired? Yeah. Was I a little cranky because I was tired? Yeah. But I wasn't like claws out, angry, gonna rip your face off. So it's all of it's important. All of it is. It's a whole package. This body, this container is a whole package that needs attention.
And I don't want to discount like the doctor stuff. I think it can be valuable to see a doctor, but we also receive our information internally.
Yeah.
So we actually do receive the information, and sometimes we receive the information internally, just like going to have a psychic reading, right?
Yep.
We receive the information. We're already receiving the information. A lot of times we'll go see someone else just to have the confirmation,
Right.
Because you had to know when you were going through the sugar stuff, you had to know that, I probably should, right? It's not a big deal.
Right.
But then you go to the doctor and the doctor's like, listen, this is a big deal. So then you started doing something about it. But like I said, I don't want to discount it, but I want people to understand you can go within inside of yourself and get this information. You can hold on to a bottle of pills with your non-dominant hand and hold it next to your body and ask your body, is this good for your body? Sometimes, and I know because I've been in this place where it's all over the place. You talked about your hormones and stuff like that. When you're in a stress state, when we were angry all the time, I can guarantee you that we were using up adrenals constantly to try to soothe that stress state. Because if you were happy, you wouldn't be stressed. It wouldn't put the same amount of stress on the body. So it's like we've been doing this our whole lives and depleting ourselves, depleting our accounts, right? Oh God, check my account for the adrenals and it sucks right now. So I'm going to start replenishing it, just doing certain things because it can produce all the feel good stuff into the body. And then it helps balance out because everything works together. Nothing can do it by itself, just like we can't do it by ourselves. We can do it by going within inside of ourselves, and which we have access to everybody,
right?
To our personal Google, whatever you want to call it. But we have all that information. Just recently, I woke up from sleep. I'm in the in-between place, and I was told choline, CHOLINE, and it helps support the liver. But I was reading about this, and it's like, what in the hell? Like, where did this come from? I don't remember reading it, and I'm not saying that I couldn't have, because I've read different stuff. Like I said, I watched Dr. Berg this morning. I didn't go looking for it. He just happened to be in my lookout, what's next. And I thought, well, I'll check this out for a minute because I like to hear what this all means. Even the medical medium talks about going through the changes and stuff. And it is not normal for us to be like this. Now, we call it normal because, like you said, we've talked to so many people that are older than us. You've heard the conversations, you've seen the angry, ugly, but if you know what I mean, but doing the work. And also on the other side of that, this meditation I've been doing recently, it goes through each one of the chakras. And so without me having to really effort, like I'll go through this stuff and maybe it gets caught up in an area. Like I said, maybe I woke up at the solar plexus at the perfect right time for me to give attention to that space. Because as I'm working through those places, the stuff starts to come up. And it comes up and I'm like, it blows my mind because I'll be doing something in the evening and all of a sudden it hits my mind. And then I'm like done with it. And then I'm trying to remember it, like, so I can write it down and like, hey, we got something to talk about. This is what I just went through. And for the life of me, I can't pin it down because it's like I resolved it. That was it. I don't need to look at it anymore.
Right.
So there's so much effortless. So I don't want people to think that it's like because I used to think that it was an effort to go out and do these things. And it really is effortless depending on how you're looking at it. But that's kind of with anything. Taking a walk out to your mailbox, if you're not feeling good, could be quite an effort. On another day, it's effortless, right? And it's just honoring, then it's at that point, honoring the body. And for me, I'm looking at stuff. I want to know, I don't want a Band-Aid fix for things. I want to know the deeper meanings for things. And that's my journey. This is my journey. I'm not saying that everybody else is on the same journey. I'm not saying it's going to work the same way. And I'm not saying it's not going to, because it kind of depends on you. It depends on what your thoughts are. Are you being dual, are you in a space of duality where you're tugging yourself, you're playing tug of war with yourself from one side of the stick, as Esther Hicks would say, to the other side of the stick? Are you happy on one side and you're angry on the other side? You're just playing tug of war. There's no balance there. So it's just not holding on, it's just not holding yourself into that space. And it's redirecting where our attentions are, where we want them to be at. What do
Yeah.
we want to advertise for? What do we want more of in your life? Joy. I want to be freaking happy. I want to be happy all the time. Why not? Why not? And who says it's not possible? We've already learned the impossible, right? We've been told all this stuff. If I listened to every single thing that I've ever heard in my whole freaking life, I wouldn't even be here right now if I listened to it and held on to it, because they aren't my beliefs. It's not my knowing,
Yeah.
because knowing trumps beliefs and everything.
That's it. And that knowing, we got to embrace that more. I mean, I have been, and I know you
It's
have
going to
been.
start showing up more. I think it's unavoidable at this point. I feel like because there's such a change going on, I feel like this is the knowing part is the next part of it. People are going to start, they'll start having the same feelings, and they'll have that same knowing. It's just unexplainable, but it's solid within inside of you that you just know, period.
Yeah.
End of story. There can be no argument about it, because this is your truth. This is the knowing.
And it's as simple as, I've had this happen in the past week. Well, with one person, a friend, or in the past like 30 days, I have called her right when she's picked up her phone to call me. And she's like, the first time it just blew her away. I thought she was going to fall off her chair. But the second time just happened last week. And I'm like, I need to call her and check in. And I called, and she's like, I was seriously just getting ready to call you. So like twice. That's a knowing. That's a connection. And then
It is.
thinking about my son, bam, he calls me or texts me. Thinking about my mom, bam, she calls or texts me. Like, this has just been in the past week, but this stuff's been going on for a while. But it's also the knowing of, well, I saw a meme on social media. It said, I'm an empath and I see fake people. Off of that movie, oh hell, what's it called? The Sixth Sense. And he says, I see dead people, right? It was, I see fake people. And we do, that's the knowing. That's the knowing that people aren't being in integrity, or knowing that they're telling their little white lies or big lies, or knowing that you need to drop everything right now and go to the store for whatever it is you needed from the stores. You need to go now, because you're probably going to run into somebody you've been thinking about, or you're going to see somebody that they're going to benefit from your interaction. That knowing is happening on a continuous basis all day, every day. And it's up to us to tune into it.
Exactly.
It's just us to embrace. Like, that word embrace is like this is part of me, right? It's wrapping my arms around it and saying, yes, this is part of me, and I want to utilize it to help me have more ease in my life, help me have more simplicity, help me have more joy, help me experience more fun and love. That's, to me, is what it's about. The more I embrace it, the more of that I get.
So surrender to your knowing. Just surrender over to it. You don't know, so just surrender to the knowing. It's a super energy. It's a superpower. It really is. It really is. It brings forth it soothes you. I want to say placates you, but it just puts you in a place where, or placate. It puts you in a place where you just feel, it just feels good, and you don't question it. And that's the thing to practice with. It's interesting that you brought up a phone call. And this is what why I'm telling you guys these stories, because pay attention to this guidance. This guidance is amazing. I'm getting ready to see, I see 2 clients and their sisters, and I haven't seen the other one for a long time. So I'm seeing the sister, but she hasn't gotten there yet. And all of a sudden her sister pops into my head, and I get this like whole thing, like, about her husband that transitioned and all this. Like, I got all this information. I put it into a text, sent it over to her, and she says, oh my God, were you in my head? I haven't talked to her for a long time. Are you in my head because I was wondering if I was a good person for him and all these things, and the information I just received would have contradicted everything that she was thinking right then. It's not to question it. These things aren't to be questioned. You just do them. You just follow through, and what happens? Then you get this. It's not like, oh, good job, Bev, you did a great job. No, because I could help change her life. I could hear that information flow through me, and I can share it with somebody else, and it changes her. Where she doesn't have to suffer. Maybe she's still going to have suffering, but she's not going to have suffering from that aspect because she received information that she was thinking about. It was something that was in her vortex. It was in her energy, or however you want to call it. But it doesn't matter because it's the response, and that helps people to know they're being seen, that they're being heard. Then they're not by themselves. There's something greater than what we think.
Yeah, and that's amazing too, because there's a lady you haven't talked to in a very long time, and you just send her this text that, like you
Randomly,
said,
right?
yeah,
Yeah, it's
like
random.
probably changed her life, like changed her own energy, her own perspective, her own uh mental capacity, not capacity, but mental thoughts that how would Bev know I'm having these thoughts right now? How would Bev know to send me a text that's really going to touch my heart and make a huge shift in me? How would you know that, Bev? Right? And so that to me is so exciting and so exhilarating, because that's another reason why we're here. Yeah,
Exactly.
we're each having these human experiences individually, but we're also energetically connected, and to be here as whether helpers for each other or messengers for each other, that these little acts like that are huge. And what do? We sit here and we question, well, why do I know this? Or why am I receiving this information? Am I supposed to send this to her? What if I send it to her and she thinks I'm weird, right? And it's one part of the process of getting out of that analytical mind and just setting your human side aside, your human self aside, and connecting to that spiritual guidance, that your little act of kindness, which is and it's not little, but any act of kindness is huge. And that's what I was gonna say. The little act of kindness could be huge.
Yeah.
But we have to take action on it, right? We have to move. And so one of my stories is, again, this just happened last week. I was sitting here, I was doing my business and working on the creation of my business, and I got a message, a knowing, to send an email to a lady who I know who is in charge of the programs at our community college. Just offer her the idea that I could teach classes there of the stuff that I teach. And it was a very simple email. I said, thinking about some possible classes. If you feel like it's a fit and resonates with you, here are some of the things that I teach. And I listed chakra balancing, intuition development, Reiki energy work, like archangels, like these are the classes I listed. Didn't put anything about meditation. Why, I don't know, but I didn't. And
Yeah, that's crazy.
I know. And after I hit send, I just went back to what I was doing. And that day I got a response with an exciting, yes, we would love to have you teach here. I was like, okay. On Thursday, I went and talked to her. It's going to end up, that's what I'm going to start with, is meditation. So I'm going to start with the meditation at the community college. And she's like, I think we should have a variety of these classes. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm game for it.
I
if
agree.
you think it's going to be, beneficial. And so that was a door that opened. And had I not listened, I'm going to reach a whole different community of people.
Yes.
Right.
Now,
and so that's
is this going
be
to be
beneficial.
online too? Is this
No,
all
it's
online too?
in person.
Okay.
So, being able to reach a whole nother group of people through that avenue, and wherever it goes from there, but the idea is that, as a teacher, spiritual teacher, that I want to, typically a goal of a spiritual teacher or a coach is, how many people can I reach? What doors are opening for me to reach other people, to get into different groups of people? And this is one. So I'm like, yeah, okay, let's do it. Let's see what happens. And
Yeah.
if I can touch a handful of lives through that avenue, let's do it. Right.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
yeah.
And it is, but it's right up your alley too, because you like to teach. Yeah, it's just an automatic for you. It's been a natural thing for you. Gosh, I recognize that all the way back when you were doing basically the get-togethers up in the Wallabies for a lot of that stuff. That's just what that's your draw. That's 100% your draw.
It lights me up, man. It lights me up so
Yeah.
much. And I get here's the thing though, I had to recognize, I get so highly energized from teaching that afterwards it's almost as if somebody's experiencing a caffeine or sugar crash.
Oh,
It's
okay.
and I will like, if it's a big event, especially like the Wallapies, that was usually like 2 days, all day. And I'd be so energized, and I wouldn't sleep because I'd be so excited about it. And I know it wasn't because I wasn't sleeping. It was because of the high energy experience that afterwards, I would, like, for a day, I would just sleep, because it was almost like a crash, like, okay, it's time to rest, And so I had to really recognize that. It took me a couple times, and I'm like, wait, hold on. We can't keep doing that.
No, and that's Suzanne Gietzman talks about that for herself. She's had that experience, but she enjoys the high part. She knows she enjoys it, but intuitions, or they're telling her like, hey, there's going to be a drop from this. You can only go, you can go so high, but you're going to end up dropping from this. Now, is that true? I don't know, but that's two people I've heard had an experience about it. It doesn't mean that I have to bring it into my experience, but it's an awareness, right? So again, if we want to go to the whole world thing, if there's something that you're seeing that you don't want in your experience, how would you like to see it different? Because we have that kind of control. We don't have to be ran by somebody else's story or their experience. Not saying anything different about yours, because I've also heard the difference from other people. Gosh, and there's some people that freaking channel all the time, and some of them will say that they totally are charged up, and they'll be amped up for like a couple of days, like after doing some of that stuff. So it's really just seeing, how does back to the body, right? How is your system handling this stuff? How is your system? So I find it fascinating. So this is interesting too. I was listening to, gosh, it was a person recently. It was a female. I can't remember her name, but I know it was on Next Level Soul interview. And she's just talking about, making sure that you're supplementing your diet because of some of these things, that these electrical impulses, or the way it affects the body, and how making sure you're having magnesium, because it helps the body to be able to handle all this stuff, so you can continue doing it. If you're not drinking enough water and you're crabby, well, because your tool, the suit that you're in, is not being honored, it's not being taken care of, and it doesn't have enough fluid in it for you to receive the information. When we're more of that fluid, that information flows in so easily. I've noticed this in my experience. It doesn't mean it's everybody's experience, but making sure that I'm drinking the fluid, getting up to that gallon a day for me, or whatever feels good for somebody else, but it's just paying attention to it. How do I feel? I'll feel lighter. If I'm feeling crabby and I've got a freaking headache, well, how much water have I had today? It's just looking at that stuff, because a majority of our body is made up of water, and we're not honoring it by keeping it depleted. We're just not. We're not honoring it by eating too much of something that may not be good for us, and then not balancing it out with something else, like the sodium and the potassium. And then how the body, when we're under a whole lot of duress and stress, your body gets rid of potassium and holds on to water and sodium. So then you're out of balance. You're back to, but that out of balance, what does that tell you? That means that something in your life is out of balance. It's not in harmony, right? It's not like it's the end of the world or a horrible thing. It's just something to look at. But what do we do a lot of times? Well, okay, so I got that problem. I had that problem for actually since the kids were born, so 30 something years. I had that problem by not bringing in potassium, which I learned again from Dr. Berg. And all I can say is I tried a pill or two and I noticed a difference. My lips aren't chapped anymore and my skin feels more hydrated. I don't feel like I'm holding excess water or, all these other things. And it's a balance. It's a balance and it's to be in that space of harmony. So it's just honoring the whole thing is paying attention to that. But we spend so much time outside of ourselves looking at the way the government's running or not running, looking at what's on TV or not on TV, looking at a relationship and assuming so much shit in your mind because you have these stories in your mind that you've carried your whole freaking life. And you don't even realize you're doing it until you start paying attention to the crap that you're feeding yourself through your mind, through your thoughts. So it's a fascinating journey when we start looking at all this stuff. When we
Yeah.
get out of the to-dos of everything else and you start recognizing, oh, well, I don't have to drink this water every day, but my body's asking for it today. Oh, I noticed I have a headache. Oh, my gauge is letting me know, you might want to add some water to this system. You might want to put some coolant in this system. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like looking at this body because it is a machine in a lot of ways, but we've still got to be in balance in it. And we didn't come here to hold everything into our liver and hold everything into our adrenals and our kidneys and our throat chakra and creating cancers. We didn't come here for all that stuff,
Yeah.
but it is an experience. We
Yeah.
don't have to stay in that space, but what do we learn? We learn so much from all these things that happen in our life. With my body being out of balance, it brought me into myself.
Right.
Bashar says, this girl asked Bashar, so tell me, why do guys have a tendency to lose hair? And he says, because they need to show that they're vulnerable. And it's not a need to show it, but it's because it creates a vulnerability within themselves and allow them to step into this place of being vulnerable. So be vulnerable and see if your hair stays with you. You know what I mean? There's just so many things. And when I heard that, it kind of resonated with me a little bit because my whole life I was a strong person. I would cry in the shower. I didn't let people see that I ever cried. I was angry all the time because that was protective for myself. I could keep everybody at a safe distance, which I still seem to keep people at a safe distance in a different way. But
Yeah.
it's just all these things, but these gauges, we had all these gauges to kind of guide us to where we need to go to from within inside of us.
Hmm.
And then it shows up in our own physical body, but it's so easy to look at someone else and be like, oh, well, they need to do this and this and this, and that'll help them. Not even hearing our own words that it's telling us
Right.
exactly. Because the people that have the problem that are showing up in your experience are having the problem because it's for your growth too. It's for both of you guys.
Yeah.
So I find everything, it's interesting. It's interesting and it's interesting how things can be so different. And I value these conversations that we have, and I have a few other people that I have these conversations with too. Like these deep conversations are they're not just surfacey things. Because we learn so much about each other and we learn so much about ourselves because in those spaces, in this space with our conversation between us, our communication, I'm learning even more stuff about myself. I'm seeing things. I'm recognizing things. And we just can't do it if you lock yourself in a cave in the mountain and that's it. Because eventually you got to get out. I mean, maybe you don't have to, but we're co-creators. We came here to co-create together. We're a benefit to each other by all of us being together.
And Bev and I come and do these because we want you to learn from what we've done, good or bad.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I gotta share a funny story. I think it's funny. Um, so uh like about a year ago, even with all this information I know, about a year ago, it was the message came to me, my knowingness said, take an estrogen supplement. Okay, so I go to the health food store and I get this jar of supplements and I get home and I read the container and follow the directions and take what it says to take for each day, right? And I do that. And after about 2 weeks, my body goes into a menstrual cycle of swollen breasts, lower back hurts. Like I'm experiencing things I didn't experience even when I had a menstrual cycle. Like I didn't have the back pains and all the stuff, right? Maybe slight cramp, nothing major. And I was very blessed in that way. But my body goes through this whole experience and and when I say swollen breasts, I'm like, I have never like these things are huge. What is happening? And so it took me a minute and I'm like, oh, okay, well, this isn't gonna work, is it? So I gave it a couple weeks to let that kind of uh move through my system. I mean, that lasted for like a day. I laid on the couch because I could not take it. I just laid on the couch and rested all day. But I let that stuff move through my system for a couple weeks. And then I tuned in, listened to the body. And since then, I've been taking it. Now, this is a supplement that says direction is like daily. I take it twice a week. One pill on Monday and one pill on Friday. And and so far it's been great, like doing great. But what I did is I tuned into, okay, if I'm supposed to be, if I'm receiving this information to take estrogen, an estrogen supplement, what dosage, how much of this should I be? Because I can't be doing this stuff. It's not going to work for me,
No,
right? Because
no,
that goes along with what you were talking about earlier. Like you tune in, you ask the body, ask your higher self, ask the angels, whoever you want to ask, tune in, and you will get the information.
it's true. And so, for my experience, even what you went through was estrogen dominance, anyways. That's too much estrogen in the system. So that means that your body is not even dumping the extra estrogen. That can even happen from being constipated. If you're constipated, and this goes for men and women, then they're holding on to extra estrogen that we don't want to hold on to. So that's something that's part of the process of removing it from your body. So
Yeah.
I totally honor that. I don't take mine every day like they say you're supposed to. I get into a habit of it sometimes, but I pay attention to the body.
Yeah.
Just like I went and picked up a choline and it has soy in it. Well, for me, I don't really feel like soy is an ideal thing. That's also going to it's going to raise your estrogen, which is fine because I do think I needed some estrogen, but I almost feel like it would be kind of creating a problem in the future. And so what did I do? I asked my body, like, what do you think about this after I purchased it? Because I brought it home and I didn't look at the back of the bottle and didn't see that it had soy in it. And so I looked at it and it's like, and I asked my body says, no, it doesn't want that. So it doesn't want it. It wants choline, but it doesn't want choline with this. And I didn't pay attention to it when I was at the health food store. So that was my learning lesson, which
Yeah.
is an awesome lesson. It's awesome.
Yeah. So that's why we share our stories, because
Yeah. Because you got to pay attention. And it's not, if a doctor says you need to do this all the time, and this, and this. And it's like, if you're not listening, you're listening to something outside of yourself. So even though you get advice, I remember I have a friend and her father went to go in for surgery to have part of his colon removed. And he told them, listen, if you're going to go in there and you're going to cut out, you can cut out, he said how much you could cut out. That's it. If you're going to cut out any more than that, if it's that damaged, go ahead and just stitch it right back up, close me back up and leave it alone. He made that decision, but we don't recognize that we have that choice. Because a
yeah.
lot of times we start getting fearful. We think that someone else knows what's best for us. And that's not a true story. It's just not. So it's checking in with yourself and asking yourself. And that's where a lot of us knowing and stuff comes into. That's where the dream journals come to, or having a journal at the side of your bed, because information comes through when you're down, because you're not thinking of anything at all. Your mind is open to receiving that information. That's where the benefit of meditation comes from, because the benefit of meditation is quieting the mind, not you making it quiet down, but just being in awareness of it, just listening to it, not shutting it down, because that awareness is like, okay, that's cool. Oh, you got that to do. Okay, thanks for the reminder. On to the next thing. It's just, we have such opportunities here. We really do. And gosh, for the longest time I felt, and it just said a lot for where I was at too. I felt like everything was such a struggle. Everything was so heavy. This is happening to me. I have no control over. I really felt like I had no control over anything,
Yeah.
anything at all. And especially when it came to my body or my health. And you're talking to a person that was bodybuilding and doing all that stuff and pushing the body to do certain things by certain means, depleting the water, increasing the protein, dropping the carbs, sometimes increasing the carbs. Like all these things is constant play with the game of what I read about somebody else's experience, instead of letting my body tell me what was the best way to do this. Okay, instead of saying, okay, boop, 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 boop. Okay, body, this is what I want you to take in right now. This is where I want to go with the way my legs look, the way that my face look, whatever. You put it in there and you start looking at other things and you just kind of let it do its thing. You just program it into there without thinking about all the things of how you can control it. What do you want to do with it? So it's just, I'm going to be interested to see what I look like in a year from now, just by the changes that I'm making right now. Because like I said, I'm going to be 53 this month, which I think is freaking awesome.
That is
And you
awesome.
add it up, it makes an 8. So hey, I'm solid with that.
Let me know how
But
it
it's
feels, because
awesome.
I'll be 53 in June.
Yep. Yep.
But yeah, so we put and I know, I'm thinking about it as you're talking. I know the medical professionals are frustrated because so many people are self-diagnosing themselves. And I say this with high regard of respect, that a lot of times it's incorrect, because they're going by what they're reading from one article instead of doing more research and not listening to the body, not listening to themselves. That's what commercials are made for. That's what marketing is made for. It's made to plant those seeds for you to feel like that, what the symptoms that they're describing. So you think you have it. So you go with the prescription, you go specifically to ask for that prescription. So I get that the medical professionals are frustrated in that sense, but I also know that my you want to call it my knowingness or my opinion, that they're also frustrated because we as individuals are listening to our bodies more, and we're not completely trusting in their diagnosis or their prescription or their recommendation, because it's just like a school. The medical professionals are putting us in a pool of general,
Mhm.
and that's what the schools do. It's everybody learns the same. Well, they know now that that's not true. But everybody's so busy that they a doctor has to see so many patients in a day to either meet his quota, to pay the bills, to run his business, whatever. And they don't have time to sit there and go, okay, well, how is what have you been thinking about lately? What have your thoughts been? Have they been positive, or like, they don't have time for that. They're like, here's what I know from what my degree tells me, from what my studies tell me, from the most recent article that I've read. Here's what I know, and I'm going to put you in that pool of people, and this is what I feel like is going to work for you for a prescription. And as a person who tunes into her body, and it's like, that doesn't really feel right. I just went through this with my medical profession and professional, and she's like, okay, well, we're going to put you on this prescription. And I'm like, wait, what do I have to do to not take that? And she told me, and I made the changes immediately. And it was one of those, this is so funny we're talking about this, because I was contemplating this morning on my way from the gym to my house, which is about 8 minutes, really. And it was like, the thought was, people want to live. Okay, I get that. You want to live because they're afraid to die. There's fear around death. You go to the doctor, you have an issue, you go to the doctor, and the doctor says, here's a prescription, but typically, not probably more often than not, that prescription leads to other issues. So you're taking more prescriptions to cover up. But anyway, so we're going to the doctor to get these things that are going to cover up, so to speak, the issues that we have, so that we feel better. But yet those things are causing more damage to our body. But yet there's not, you want to live, but there's not enough interest to take your own health into consideration. So is it, I believe, type 2 diabetes is completely 100% created from environment. But nobody wants to change their environment. Equals everything in your life, your relationships, your mental state, your emotional state, the food you're eating, the job you have. Like, it's, again, a whole package. but yet we stay in that suffering and we're not interested in making any changes. So I'm just going to go to the doctor. The doctor's going to tell me what's wrong, to give me this pill so I can function in this environment that doesn't feel good, so I can continue to live in that environment. And I'm just like, that went a little deeper with that than what my conversation was with myself this morning. But the whole idea is we want to live, but we don't want to take the action, the initiative of our own health to make the changes so that we can live a healthier or more joyful life, a happier life. So isn't that, I just found that so interesting this morning, that popped into my head. And here we are having these conversations this morning. So that's great. That wasn't even something I was going to talk about today either. You're the one that started it.
And that want creates a desire. That want creates a desire. Even if you want to go to a doctor, and sometimes people want to go to a doctor just because they want to be seen. They want to be seen and heard, and are let down again because they're the ones that need to see and hear themselves.
Yeah.
You know, what I see is, and we both watched Next Level Soul, and we listened to Alex's interviews, and he's had interviews with a few doctors that have, and this is where I see medical going. They're listening to their knowing, they're listening to their intuition, they're using their psychic gifts that's natural for all of us, but they're doing it. And they may not discuss it with their colleagues, what they're doing, but they'll have responses and answers to things that they would never have known to even select or test for or anything. So we'll be going into a space of that knowing. When your body says you need to go see this doctor, a doctor shows up in your thing and you just know, you don't know why, but you just know, because that doctor, like if you listen to Anthony, the medical medium, he receives information from the spirit of compassion. And that tells him, he gets all these diagnoses for everybody that goes by him. It doesn't matter. He could be talking on the phone, talking to that person. He's picking up them. He's picking up the people that are walking by him. He's picking up people while he's on the road driving or as a passenger, which is not always fun, but it's this knowing that guides us to another person that can give us those answers. Because maybe we don't have an understanding, or maybe we're getting in our way of the information that's coming in through us. And we just need someone else to kind of filter it and decipher it for us, to tell us what really is going on. And it doesn't mean that we didn't know, but we didn't know how to put it all together. So then you're going to go to these doctors that actually are using their knowing, they're actually using their psychic abilities, and they're taking the information they have learned from the medical, from going to college to learn all this stuff. They're taking that information, but not creating a blanket to cover everybody. It's just another opportunity to look at something that this could be beneficial for this person, or you can recognize that it definitely is not. Right. And like you said, for most of the things, I will tell you, most of my clients that are on medications, if they're getting the one, they're getting another one. And how many people do you talk to that just want that magic pill anyways? They just want the magic pill, when all along you're the magic pill. Right. But recognizing that's a duality, right? Recognizing that, yes, I can do this, but then we have dualities like, well, then I have to do this. I have to eat that food to fix this. Maybe not really, but it's an opportunity. But you have to know, it's with your knowing that tells you, yes, you definitely need that right now. And then always being aware that those things change. Just like for me, I needed vitamin D. I was deficient. I am no longer deficient. I am very sufficient. I'm overflowing. You might want to call me the sun. I don't even know.
You're so bright, Bev. You're so bright.
So bright.
I do want to put a disclaimer that the medical professionals are beneficial.
Yes.
And it's also important to listen to yourself. And there are prescriptions that are definitely needed for you to get through whatever you're going through. So if you're in a deep depression, sometimes you need that depression medication to get you through whatever you're getting through. But, it's to recognize that if you're in a depression, that's past experience based, meaning things that have happened to you in the past that you're still hanging on to, and whatever's happening in the current situation is triggering all that emotional heaviness that's stored in the body, and the current situation is triggering that to come up. But instead of looking at it and doing some healing around it, it's maybe need the medication for now. So and also, the medical professionals, they have the equipment to help give us the information. That's why I go every year. I just want to know where I'm at, what's going on. And even though it's once a year, I don't care. Like, I actually look forward to it. But also at the same time, if you break your arm, you're probably not going to sit there and just, oh, it hurts and I'm going to suffer. You're going to go to the doctor, get an x-ray, see that it's broke. They're going to stabilize it, do the thing. So, and probably give you some pain meds to get through it. So don't discount. I personally am not discounting the medical professionals, but what we are telling you is listen to your body, listen to you. And I wanted to hit on when you start talking about doctors and their psychic abilities and their knowingness, right? That they're starting to tune into this. And what came to me was they're probably recognizing how beneficial meditation is. And in meditation, they're getting these downloads and now they're using that information on their patients. So I'm just like, it's a domino effect that hopefully instead of them turning to tobacco or alcohol or their own prescriptions, that they're turning more towards that peace, calmness through meditation. And then they're tuning into themselves as well. Like, it just happens when you do meditation, it just happens. So then maybe that's happening. And the more medical professionals, and this is doctors and nurses and techs and all of them, right? That the more that if they turn more in that direction of meditation and being still and creating inner calmness, then they're going to receive or be connected to their guidance, their higher self, their spiritual GPS, whatever you want to label it. And they will now, once that becomes present in their experience and they utilize it and recognize how often they are right because they followed that, then they're going to use it more and more. And the more it takes one person who does it and they find somebody who they can share that information with. And then it expands from there, grows from there. And then more people are doing it, the more it's going to become common.
True. And it's being talked about now. So the ripple effect is, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I mean, in 1 week, in 1 week, I have seen like 3 different social media posts about yoga studios coming in our town, being constructed right now.
Awesome.
Getting ready to open. I'm like,
awesome.
3 in a week. And I'm like, what is happening right now? This is so cool and so fun. So it's becoming it's what we becoming the norm, quote unquote norm.
Yes.
It's becoming more common, and it's going to be, it's just great. It's just a great time to be on that train.
Yes.
I'm having more fun in my life because of it, but
yeah, I love it. I love it.
And community, being in community, that's something I'm working on right now as far as creating a community of women to come together, because it's more of because we've been in survival mode for so long in our lives, in decades. Women especially been in survival mode because proving ourselves that we're good enough, doing the man's job, taking care of the whole household with 10 kids. We're just doing all this stuff and it's complete survival mode. And it's to me, I reckon like it's time to raise the feminine energy, and we can do that in community of feminine energy. Now, if a male, is tuned into his feminine energy and wants to come, that's cool. I'm not against that. But the idea is to raise collectively the feminine energy. And it doesn't mean being a feminist. It's just got to bring that nurturing in and that more tuning into our spiritual side and connecting more to that knowingness and following that guidance and utilizing all of that more.
Awesome.
So, and I'm calling it Sisterhood Soul Connection.
Nice.
Fun. I was like, all right. That came to me. That wasn't something I'm like, universe, I'm open to whatever you want to give me, because creating names for things is not my forte. I'm just like, okay, so if you want me to do this, I need a name for it. What are we gonna call this?
Nice. Nice. I like it. I
So
like it a lot.
yeah. So anyway, this is a great conversation, Bev.
It has been a great conversation. It's funny because I never know. It's like sometimes I'm like, I don't even know. I don't even know where this conversation is going to go, but it's like I have to remind myself when I get into that space, I never know where the conversation is going to go. I never know what's going to come up. I never planned on listening to, like I said, listening to the things that I listen to while I'm getting ready or any of that stuff. I just look at whatever I resonate with, whatever I get pulled towards.
Yeah.
It's showing up in my stuff. I know that I'm being pulled towards that.
Yeah.
So it's awesome. And then I guess for this, I would say for this week, so if whoever's listening to this, I want you to, if you can, take the time and meditate 3 to 5 minutes. You could do a sip of the divine, which you can find on YouTube. You can sit quietly for 3 to 5 minutes. You can do just breath work for 3 to 5 minutes. You can do whatever you want, but do some sort of meditation. I don't care what time of day you do it. And then let us know next week after our show, in the comments, let us know what you notice. Let us know what seems different for you. How do you feel? How does life seem to be changing for you?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Because it's cool. It's way cool.
It is cool.
And this coming from a girl who denied meditation for about 7 years or so. Even though I knew about it and everybody was talking about it, everybody I was reading and following, I was like, yeah, no, that's not for me. Yeah, it is. It is now, and I make time for it. So
yeah. And then asking yourself, even when that comes forward and you say, oh, this is not for me, what part of you is saying this is not for me? The part that thinks it doesn't have any more time or anything else to give, but you don't have time to give you don't have time to give to yourself. You don't have time to give to yourself. There's a problem.
It's the victim side. Yeah. The victim that says, no, you don't have time for this. And the survival side that says you have too much to do. You don't have time to sit. Let's go, girl.
And it's not a problem. It's just as where you're at on your path, right?
Right.
Let's go, girl. Yes.
Right. Now it's let's go, girl. We got to meditate. We got to do some journaling. We got some creativity in the business to do today. That's my let's go, girl now. So
nice.
Yeah, it's fun. All right, my friends. Thank you for hanging out with us. Tea time with Amy and Bev. Any final words?
I already said it.
All right. Make it an incredible week.
That's right.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.